Welcome, everyone, to the Daily Fantasy 5 for this Saturday, June 22nd. This is episode 124, and we are breaking down the 5 things you need to know every day in the world of fantasy sports. And today, that's going to include some baseball injuries and pretty bad performances. We're going to be talking about the fantasy football running backs today. I'm going to cover my sleepers and some general strategies on where to draft your running backs. So let's get started after a word from our sponsor, www.mathradio.com, where you can pick up an online math course for as little as $9.99 to help your children ages 7 through 17 to increase their grades, score higher on exams, and even get into college. Once again, that is www.mathradio.com. All right, everybody. So let's start with our stories in Major League Baseball. Cameron Maybin is being sent down to the injured list with a calf strain. He's been performing very well for the Yankees, 314 his batting average. He's hit 5 home runs and has 14 RBIs with 6 stolen bases and only 117 at bats. So it's a shame that he's getting sent down after he's had a very, very nice year thus far. Keuchel for the Braves did not perform all that well in his first outing of the season. Gave up 3 earned runs in 5 innings. He allowed 8 hits, no walks, and had 3 strikeouts in 99 innings pitched. So I guess he's going to have a little more rust than we expected. I would hold on to Keuchel and see if he improves. And those are the big stories in the fantasy landscape. But let's talk about our fantasy running backs as people are starting to do some mock drafts and really getting the drafts going for the season. Before we get into the actual sleepers, I want to talk about some running back strategy. So, I like some of the running backs that are picked later in the rounds. So, I'm only drafting running backs in rounds 1 and 2 if I have one of the first 4 picks. I think if you have picks 1 through 4, you're picking one of those guys. You're picking either Zeke Elliott, Kamara, Saquon Barkley, or the guy from the Panthers. I forget his name, but you know what I'm talking about. You're picking one of those 4 players. If you don't have one of the first 4 picks, I'm going to wait on running backs. I want to get 2 wide receivers who are absolute studs. Maybe throw a tight end in there. I will draft, a quarterback if he falls. Well, there's only one quarterback I would draft, and you know who he is. He's from Kansas City. He's Patrick Mahomes. So if he falls, I'll draft him as well. But yeah, so unless I have one of the first 4 picks, I'm not taking a running back early. I'm sticking with my stud wide receivers. I'm going to pick a tight end. I'm going to do whatever I can to pick running back late unless I get one of the top 4. McCaffrey is the Panthers. I was stalling there for a minute. McCaffrey is the running back from the Panthers that I would also draft in the top 4. So let's say I fall outside the top 4. I've taken a couple wide receivers and a tight end. All right. So now I am on to pick number 4. In the 4th round, I want James White. Okay. I've talked about him. I think I had him listed as RB6 on my top 20. I think he's going to be an absolute stud, especially in PPR this year. The guy catches everything. He'll run the ball a little bit as well, especially with Sonny Michel having an injury. So I'm going to pretty much in every league I have draft James White in the 4th round. He's going early in the 5th. I think it's pretty safe to take him in the 4th, and that'll be the start of my running back class. Then in the 5th round, I'm going to go running back again. I've got pretty much 3 options here in the 5th round. Lindsey from Denver, Carson from Seattle, or Ingram from Baltimore, all of whom are being drafted in the 5th round. Lindsey's ADP is 53, Carson is 54, and Ingram is 57. So I'm hoping one of those 3 players falls to me there in the 5th round. So now I've got my RB1 and RB2 all set up. Okay, in the 6th and 7th rounds, I want to get one more running back here. So I either want Tariq Cohen in the 6th round. He's being drafted as the 73rd running back. So I'm not. So he's being drafted 73rd overall. So typically you can pick up Cohen in the 6th round. And then in the 7th round, I like Miles Sanders, the rookie from Penn State. So all those other guys we've talked about in my top 20 already. So think about that. In the 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds, you can get 2 running backs in the top 20. So that's pretty good value. But Miles Sanders fell outside my top 20. But if you want to draft him, you need to get him in the 7th round as he's going as, where is he at ADP? I had it written down. Yes, he's going as ADP 77th overall. So if you want to get him, he's got to fall to you in the 7th round. Like I said, he's a rookie out of Penn State. He can run, he can catch, he can kind of do everything. And then the Eagles only have Jordan Howard ahead of him. All right, they traded for him from the Bears. So Miles was the second running back taken. He was taken in the second round. So the Eagles obviously have plans for him. Ajay and Sproles remain unsigned. So really the only obstacle to Sanders playing is Jordan Howard, who wasn't all that impressive with the Bears last year. I think that the Eagles, Miles Sanders will at least be in a timeshare at the start of the season, and I think he will be the lead back, if not from day one, eventually this year. So I think he's definitely worth a seventh round pick. You're getting a player who could be your RB2, but at least is going to be valuable as a flex option from the beginning of the year. So I think that's a good pick in round 7. In round 8, I want to have my 3 running backs already chosen by this point. So I don't really want to take a running back in round 8, but if I have to, you've got high risk, high reward players here. We have guys who finished as running back number 19 for me. That's a second year player out of Washington. I think he's going to have an awesome year, but he is high risk, high reward. And then you have Tevin Coleman out of San Francisco. Tevin Coleman is being drafted as the 84th player overall. So if he falls to this point, I mean, he's a high risk reward player as well, because they also have what's his name, McKinney and Breda also at running back. So it's a crowded group there in San Francisco, but you would think one of those players would emerge, but it is a high risk because he could be in a 3-way timeshare, and then he's just not going to have the opportunity to have value for you as an 8th round pick. So I want to have 3 running backs after round 7, preferably, so I don't have to take either Geis or Tevin Coleman. Even though I have Geis in my top 20, I don't really want him to be my RB3. Now, if he's my RB4, that's fine. I'm perfectly good with that. Take a shot on him and see if he can go ahead and pull through. I don't really like anybody after the 8th round until we get to the 12th round. Then I like Ronald Jones out of Tampa Bay. He was awful last year. He's going to be a second-year player this year. He was a second-round draft pick for Tampa Bay. He was horrible last year, but they have a new coaching staff. He, I think, has more talent than Peyton Barber, who was the lead role. Peyton Barber's super consistent. He's only missed 1 game in his first 4 years, but he doesn't really do much. So I think Ronald Jones has more raw talent. This coaching staff might lean that way and get Ronald Jones on the field ahead of Peyton Barber. And if you have the lead back in Tampa Bay, I don't know, it might be worth, a late round pick. Round 12 is where I have him. I want to mention also Darrell Henderson. It was my 20th pick overall in the running back group. He's being drafted still as 139 overall. Man, I heard somebody talking on PFF today in a podcast that people are drafting him in the 7th or 8th rounds. That even I think is a little bit crazy. I mean, if you can get him in around 10, around 11, I like that a lot. I would not be drafting Darrell Henderson in the 6th, 7th, 8th round. That seems a little bit crazy pants. I think he's going to be awesome, but even I wouldn't draft him that high. He's awesome as a value if you can get him later and then kind of win your league that way. He's not awesome if you actually have to pay for him being a top 20 player. So that's what I have to say on Darrell Henderson. We talked about him the other day. All right, so now let's get to, I have 3 deeper sleepers here. These are guys that are all being drafted outside the top 150 in ADP. My first guy is Carlos Hyde. He's listed as 2nd in the depth chart in Kansas City. I think he's a better player than Damian Williams. I don't think Damian Williams is that great. I think he was just in a great situation. I think Carlos Hyde, he's never really put it together. And I mean, the risk with Carlos Hyde is he's always hurt, right? He's only played 14 games in the last 2 years, but the guy has talent. In 2017, he rushed for like 960 yards and he had 57 catches. I don't see any reason he can't do that for the Kansas City Chiefs. That offense is electric, and he can get out there and be electric when he's healthy. So I guess the thing is, maybe I like him more from a daily fantasy where you can change your lineup every week, where you don't have to have him at the end of your bench because he's only valuable, obviously, if he's healthy, and he doesn't cost you anything in a daily fantasy format. But I think if he is healthy, he has more value than Damian Williams on a game-per-game basis. So I do like Carlos Hyde at the end of a draft. Next up, I have the rookie out of Boise State, Alexander Madison. He plays for the Vikings. And I guess the main reason I like him is I don't really love Dalvin Cook. Cook, speaking of players who are being injured, has only played 15 games over his first 2 seasons. Obviously, I don't think Alexander Madison is as good as Cook is. Cook is an incredible talent when he is healthy. He was amazing at the end of last year, but you got to get to that point. So I think Alexander Madison can come in and do it all for the Vikings. And if he's going to be a reliable player, I can see him being the lead back in a system with the Vikings if Cook is going to be often injured or has a slow start again. So I can see whatever running back is starting for the Vikings is going to have a lot of value. And I think Alexander Madison could be that pick at the very end of your draft. I don't mind at all spending a lottery ticket on Alexander Madison with the hopes that he ends up overtaking Dalvin Cook either by injury or just outperforming him at the beginning of the year. My final deep sleeper is Damian Harris out of Alabama for the Patriots. Yes, I know he wasn't even the best running back on his team last year, but right, Sony Michel for the Patriots is injured. Yes, they still have Rex Burkhead and James White, but James White really plays a different role. We've talked about that. I think Damian Harris is going to play the role they wanted Sony Michel to play last year, and in that role, he has a lot of value because he'll be the goal line back for the Patriots. He'll be the guy running the ball into the end zone for touchdowns. He should also get a lot of carries if Sonny Michel isn't able to go, if he can hold on to the ball. And I mean, Damian Harris can catch the ball as well. It's not like he's only a run-only player. But I really like Damian Harris. I think he will have a big role for the Patriots this year. I think the Sony Michel pick just isn't going to work out for the Pats. And I think Damian Harris really is going to be the guy for them going forward. They certainly spent draft capital on him like he's going to be the guy. So my three super sleepers are Carlos Hyde, Alexander Madison, and Damian Harris. All right, that's it for the running backs and the fantasy news today. Tomorrow we're going to be back. We'll talk about all the fantasy news, of course, and I'll break down a mock draft I'm doing later on today. So we will see you tomorrow with all that news. Please check out www.mathradio.com to pick up an online math course for your child ages 7 through 17 to help them get better grades, score higher on exams, and even get into college. Mathradio.com. Please like and subscribe to our show on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast, we would love a 5-star rating and a review. All right, that's it. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.